where my mom's at, real quick. All right? Your kids need to be a little scared of you at some point in time in their lives, all right? Because you need to tell them the truth. I love it. I was hearing this story. Be honest, your mom was talking about you. I heard this story through the grapevine. And it came through, she was talking about you. That's okay. That's what moms do sometimes. I've known Breann for 13, 14 years now. Back when you were still trying to figure out if the world was round or flat. No, I'm just kidding about that. And you've grown up into a beautiful young lady. She graduated from North Georgia College. She's an advocate for the court systems, or tell us what you do.
I'm a domestic violence advocate up in North Georgia. So
Dawson County?
In Loveland County.
Come on, somebody. Isn't that awesome? I love it. She is like a bulldog on a bone when it comes to this occupation.
Yeah.
She has a heart for those that are broken, abused, mistreated, neglected. And I'm telling you, I'm so proud of you. I mean, I know that's not what we're talking about. I just want you to know I am proud of who you are. And I'm proud of all that God has done in your life. And what I love about Breann, that's one of the things I've loved about Breann. By the way, she's written a couple of books. It's fantastic. She's got this creative mind about her. But Breann has never shied away from wrestling with the truth.
Yeah.
Right? And I don't know if that's the firstborn problem or what. but like, if it's a problem, she's going to talk about it, right? And she has this way of talking about it, even if you don't want to talk about it, right? And Cindy's that way, right? They're both like, they're just going to talk about it. And you want them just to stop talking, and they're going to talk about it. They don't want to talk about uncomfortable things. I love that about that honesty and that kind of vulnerability. And you were having a conversation with your mom about finances, and you happened to be talking to your mom, lesson learned, right? About kind of what you were feeling. And I'm going to bring us up to speed for time today, but you were like, it came up to something where she told you something you needed to do, and you're like, I can't do that. So tell us real quick. Tell us just a short part of that conversation.
So yeah, it was actually a conversation about tithe. I had never had an issue with tithing before, and I got my new job before I had to move out of my dorms, and so I was like, okay, I can tithe, that's not an issue. It wasn't until I got into my new place that I was like, whoa, I don't actually make that much money.
Hold on a second. I had no problem with tithing when I was living at home or a little help. But all of a sudden, when I did this thing called being an adult, it got real. No, that's real. Is it not real?
Yeah.
Right? I don't have any problems with things when I don't have to carry the weight of it, but come on, that's what I'm saying. I love this about you, right? So anyways, you're having a conversation, got your new place, you're like, whoa, ain't making that much money.
Right. And so a couple months down the road, complaining to my mom about how I have so little money.
Sorry, we don't use the word complaining. We use the word processing, okay, everybody? Are you with me, all right? Nobody complains in here, we do what?
We process.
Well, that's what we're doing, okay? Because complaining sounds negative, all right? So we were, say it again, we were
processing how I was talking about how I just don't have that much money when bills come out and stuff like that. And she's like, well, are you tithing? And I kind of made a face. And I said, well, I feel like I can't afford to tithe out of my paycheck. And she goes, and I love her so much, but sometimes I have to learn, maybe we don't talk about this. But she just looks at me, she goes, Breann, you can't not afford to tithe. And of course I did the usual groan and eye roll, and I was like, okay, I guess, I'll think about it. But she challenged me to pray about it. She's like, I'm not telling you what to do. She goes, but you know what God is asking you to do with tithe. And so I made the decision after that, okay, I really cannot afford to tithe out of my first paycheck, but I'll give 20% out of my second one to compensate for that missing 10 out of the first one.
There you go.
And
so this was an act of faith.
yep, act of faith.
All right, so it's weird when your parents are talking to you about following Jesus and everything. Moms and dads, can I tell you something? It's not the church's job to raise your kids. It's our job to support you raising your kids, right? You ought to be the first person to push your kids to follow Jesus.
That's right.
I love that because it's not fun. Where are my moms and dads?
That's right. Come on.
That's right.
You should have given a shout out. Go Dogs, forget Georgia Tech. No, that's not what we're doing today. All right, anyways, a good shout out, right? You ought to be like, that's right. It's a privilege, but it's hard. No, Nobody tells you when they're 6 months old and when they first cry, and one day you're going to have to get in their face and be like, we're not doing this. I'm telling you that right now. We're not going to do that. And they look at you and say, well, so-and-so has it better. And you're like, I dare you to say that again,
That's
right?
right.
The point is parenting and raising your kids is not for the faint of heart,
That's
especially when they become adults. Come on, listen. That's when they need you most. Thank you. Right. Some of y'all didn't believe me. So you did it.
Yes.
Begrudgingly, not begrudgingly, you did it willingly. But tell me what happens.
Well, I gave that 20% of that second paycheck and had way less left over. And I was like, okay, God, I just have to trust you. I don't have any other choice but to trust you. Well, not too long after that, a couple days, maybe a week, I get a call from my boss. And she goes, hey, I want to see about offering you a raise. And so I was like, oh my gosh, okay. And I got off the phone and I started laughing because I'm like, God, I wasn't expecting anything to come from my act of faith. I hear stories about that. I was like, it's not going to happen for me. I was like, but I'm going to trust you anyway. So following that, I started laughing. I was like, God, it's crazy to see, where you're providing out of my faith.
And that's not all. Wait, there's more.
That's right.
Did you get the raise?
I did get the raise.
Wait, there's more.
My apartment complex also then switched to using a new finance system, so where we can pay half our rent up front and then the other half later down the line. So I was able to save money on both those paychecks. So now I'm actually able to give the 10% out of that first one. I love these testimonies. One, I love hearing other parents wrestle with their kids and parenting, right? I love that. I'm just kidding, it's not a wrestle, it's a privilege. But I love how God's like, I'm going to make it a way for you to obey me. I'm not going to put this on you to obey me. I'm going to make a way to make sure you can obey me.
Come on.
Listen to me very carefully. That's one of the most amazing parts of walking with Jesus, is he never asks you to do something that if you do it, he won't provide a way for you to do it.
That's right. Come on.
And what most people struggle with is they say, I can't afford to. And your mom says you can't afford not to. Because when you can't afford to, you're saying, God, I'll figure my situation out. I need no help
That's
from
right.
you.
Yep.
I'm going to do it my way. And that's an okay way to live. It's dumb. I'm transparent. It's dumb.
Yep.
That's like the unlimited telling the unlimited, I think I know better than you.
Come on.
And I'll say it again, that's dumb, but it's okay. God's not going to force you to do it. And then yet someone comes in and says, look, no, you can afford not to. Trust it. When you trust God, you say, this is on you now because I obeyed what you told me to do. It's weird. My kids have never gone to the store for me, bought something I've told them to buy. English is hard to buy. And me not pay for it. And they're like, you told me to buy it. Yep, and I'm going to make sure you have the way to obey what I asked you to do. So all of a sudden now you get a raise. You're making a difference in Dawson and Lumpkin.
Yes, yes.
God made you the way for you to be blessed and walk under his covering. Let me ask you a question. Has it been joyful ever since?
It really has. Even with doing my job, I find that I have more capacity to do what I'm doing as well. Because I'm not worried. I was exhausted all the time thinking about my own finances and then taking on the responsibilities of my job and hearing these horror stories day in and day out. But since that moment, there's been more joy, there's been more patience, there's been more compassion, there's been more peace, despite the stories that I hear constantly.
You sound like a Christian. Can you imagine living that hard this year? Work at your job, everybody says it's going to be crap, but you find joy in doing it because you know you represent a different kingdom? Come on, man. I'm so proud of you. Give her a big hand, everybody.